All right, for those wrestling fans out there that don't remember this music, this used to be the Naturally Ice This theme music from my channel from way back in 2009. This is Blast from the Past, and it's not the Blast from the Past that everybody might think it might be. Usually when I do the Blast from the Past, I talk about, wrestlers from the past and and whatnot, and here in and here out. But this video here today is just a continuation video. With SmackDown supposedly moving to Thursday nights. Now, for a lot of you young wrestling fans out there that don't know, for years, Vince McMahon, once he took over the WWF, started screwing promotions over time and time again. He did it with the Crockett's. He threatened cable companies that we won't give you our 4 pay-per-views, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, the Royal Rumble Survivor Series, if you continue to air the then NWA WCW Starrcade. Now, he was underhanded for the most part. He got dirty. He was low down. But, he got his due. He got paid back. Because in the late 90s, or mid to late 90s, WCW emerged as the biggest wrestling company in the wrestling business. Now, with all that being said, Vince McMahon almost went out of business. He was at the end of his rope. He was so close to going out of business, but he held on. And fortunately for him, he did hold on because he saved his wrestling company. And a lot of people are talking about, Vince McMahon being an on-air character. He was the first. No. Eric Bischoff was the very first on-air head man for a wrestling company. Eric Bischoff from WCW was the very first. And he created the NWO with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash. And it expanded to be the biggest faction ever in the world of professional wrestling. Ever. There was nobody else any better. DX was great. The Four Horsemen were great. But there was no other faction bigger than the NWO. Now, with all this being said, the NWO ran its course after like 3 or 4 years. Now, this is a faction that totally dominated the world of professional wrestling. This was a faction in the time for WCW. Everybody's talking about the Attitude Era in the WWE. The Attitude Era actually started in WCW. Go back, watch parallel shows from Raw is War to WCW Nitro, and just watch them week per week as they both aired. And then you'll get your answer. You'll know what I'm stating is a fact. Now, Vince McMahon overcame. He pulled a lot of dirty dealings. He pulled away a lot of the WCW stars because at the time in the late 90s, the WCW had a roster that was so huge that nobody could compete with them. Nobody could ever compete with them. But Vince found a way. He got a pocket full of dough. He brought everybody back. And it got to the point where WCW was at its lowest point. WCW Ted Turner ended up firing Eric Bischoff, which was the biggest downfall in WCW history because Eric Bischoff was the man behind WCW and its great success. Now, after Bischoff was gone, Vince McMahon sought and seeked a way, and he found a way to destroy WCW. And he did everything that he could. And with AWA going bankrupt for the simple fact the way WCW and WWE were so worldwide, they were just spread out all over the country and the world. AWA had no way to stay in business. So Vince McMahon pretty much bought them out. And then at the end of WCW, when Eric Bischoff tried to buy WCW, but he could not land a TV deal. Ted Turner didn't want them on his network no longer. And if Bischoff could have landed a TV deal, I think WCW could have been alive still today. But since he couldn't, there was no reason, Bischoff, just thought it was a failing effort. And so on the unfortunate turn of events, Vince McMahon bought out WCW, ECW. They made a mockery of him. And if you watch the show where Vince actually announced that he bought WCW, the show which Shane said that he owned it, Vince was very cocky with that attitude. And I guess rightfully he could have been, for the simple fact that he was slapped in the face by WCW for so long. But with all that being said, Vince McMahon is a low-down, dirty businessman, a man that will find any means to destroy a wrestling company. And he got rid of WCW, he got rid of ECW, and at that point in time, there was really no competition whatsoever. TNA came into the picture with the finding of Jeff Jarrett. And, of course, Vince McMahon and Jeff Jarrett are not on good terms. But anyway, Vince was on top of the world, and he owned the wrestling world. And as time went on, TNA got bigger. We had Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was just a small speck, like TNA, a small speck in the world of the professional wrestling. So Vince didn't really have no worries. And then it got, as time moved on, 2010, Hogan and Bischoff had this great idea, joining TNA to go up against WWE, Monday Night Wars, which Bischoff, he succeeded once and he had the idea he could do it again. But TNA just didn't have the talent to do just that. And it failed. And it lasted for a very short time. And then TNA eventually went back to their, normal spot. And they were a mainstay on Thursdays for a very, very long time. Now, as time has gone on, WWE has found themselves in a situation where they put themselves into. They lied to stockholders. They're getting heat for that. Their stock went down to like minimum amounts per share, and Vince had to start, cutting employees, cutting superstars. He got as far as getting rid of the WWE magazine, and now it's gotten to the point where, they have the WWE network, and he's not getting the subscribers that he wants. And, of course, he's finding other ways. Now, TNA with their issues with Spike TV, it was announced in the recent weeks that Spike does not want to renew TNA, but they still are in negotiations. And I do believe that Vince McMahon has a lot of pull in this area, just for the fact that Vince was, airing his programming on Spike TV, and the Viacom thing is a major importance there as well. And now there's rumors that Vince, all of a sudden, after all these years since 2005, wants to put SmackDown on Thursday nights, where they already have NXT and Superstars on the WWE network. So this means they got to move that programming to a different night to move SmackDown from Friday to Thursday. And what does that tell you there? Vince wants to bury TNA, Impact Wrestling, and Dixie Carter. And the funny part about it is Dixie has nothing but kind words to say about the WWE and Vince McMahon and what he's done throughout the years. And this is what you get. You know, TNA is in a tough time right now, and I've been watching their shows for many, many years. I've been watching the WWE for many, many years. I watched the WCW for many, many years. The NWA before that, the AWA, the WCCWs and ECWs. And it's come to the point in time where you know when Vince is moving SmackDown from Fridays to Thursdays, after being on Friday for 9 years, when TNA is most vulnerable at this point in time with Spike TV, Vince is only doing it to get TNA out of the picture, you know, close them down, and become the monopoly that he, you know, has been wanting to be for so long. And to me, I don't understand, because competition is healthy. Competition makes you have to make a better product. And Vince is getting everybody out of the way. And it's unfortunate because the product of the WWE isn't all that good right now. And, you know, I enjoy watching it, but, you know, we all know we've seen it a lot better. And everybody says, well, it can't be like the Attitude Era. But remember this. The Attitude Era really started with WCW. I mean, people don't want to, you know, accept it. They don't want to, you know, admit the fact that that's exactly what it was. But yeah, there's you know, everybody's saying, well, maybe Vince is moving SmackDown to Thursday nights because, you know, he wants to get better ratings. Well, first off, here's the deal. You got Bellator on Thursday nights, which does quite well for for Spike TV. And then in another few weeks, we're going to have Thursday Night Football. Now, with that happening, with Thursday Night Football and SmackDown on Thursday nights, what is this going to do to TNA? It's essentially going to destroy them. And Vince knows this. And he doesn't care because this is what he wants done. And, you know, he's making millions and millions of dollars off the WWE network, whether he says he does or not, he does, by airing WCW product. Vince, if WCW was no good, why are you putting and you know, really showcasing the WCW product? Because maybe finally you don't come out and say it, but everybody can read between the lines. WCW surpassed the WWF back in the 90s, regardless of The Rock, regardless of Stone Cold Steve Austin, regardless of, you know, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. WCW was, in my eyes, in the late 90s, the best wrestling there ever was. And Vince McMahon will never admit it, but he inadvertently does admit it by airing all their product. And it's sort of a sad state of affairs that, you know, Vince was a rival of WCW and he badmouthed WCW, but now he's making millions off the WCW name. This is the Iceman on this Wednesday night. Peace out, everybody, and we'll see you next time.